We are live. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. And today's guest, I'm hanging out here with Dana Dunford of Hemlane. Dana, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Jason, for having me.
So I'm really excited to have you here. You have such a bright personality, and I was really, I get so curious with people, and I was really biting my tongue and resisting just getting into figuring you out and asking you questions.
Great.
It's always a challenge for me. So now I can do it. So let's get into this. So Dana, why don't you share with everybody a little bit of background on you and who you are, and then let's transition into getting into how Hemlane came to be.
Yeah, great. So
what it is.
Yeah, my background, by accident, I actually ended up in Silicon Valley just through studying here for university. And so my background's actually always been in technology, and I've always been fascinated with it. I actually got into real estate and looking at real estate investing kind of through two different people. One was my brother-in-law, who was investing in real estate and saying, Dana, you need to get into investing as well. Do that on the side from I was working at Apple at the time, doing new product introductions. And then the second was actually who my co-founder is today, Frank, who has rental properties across the US. So I haven't been on the property manager side until we started self-managing. So we ended up self-managing our properties remotely and trying to figure out how to make that work. And essentially started with self-management and then actually moved into a more hybrid model that worked out really well, where we were working with local managers and local real estate agents to help us with the management while we were still controlling the financials and the rent and still being involved in it. So a little bit of a hybrid solution, which today I don't see actually in the market. It's either full service or, do it yourself. And I think do it yourself is a really horrible one to take because then every single person, all 43 million renter households with, 20 million people are looking for ways to essentially streamline and mitigate risk and all of that. And so having property managers and experts in the industry really makes a ton of sense. And so that's kind of what brought me to more of a hybrid model. I left technology then, or not left technology, but left Apple, went to business school at Harvard. After that, came back to Silicon Valley, was working at a company called Nest, which is home technology. Got me more excited about real estate technology, and they were actually acquired by Google. And so realized, hey, I want to actually start my own thing. And property management is one of those incredible industries where technology to date there's a lot of players out there, a ton in the property management software space, quite frankly, too many of them. But kind of taking that model and saying, how do we do a different approach and think about it differently and really build communities of managers, communities of agents, communities of owners to work together. Because 70% of owners, as you know, Jason, I think actually you were the first person I learned that from, 70% of owners self-manage. So how do you connect those 70% to get some sort of help? Right at the beginning, they're going to say, I don't need help. But sure enough, they call and they're like, I had a nightmare of a tenant. I hate this. I'm either selling my portfolio or I need some help. And so really helping them and being there at the right time. And a lot of times that right time for them is getting involved in them with them, even when they're self-managing.
Yeah, I got the 70% stat from the Iceberg report, which says on single family residential, about 30% are, professionally managed, So,
Yeah.
and, I need to point out in your bio, because this is the only bio I've ever seen this in. It says that you're an avid equestrian, paraglider, and skier, and she is the first woman to win a calf dressing championship belt buckle at the California Rodeo. So are you kind of a cowgirl then?
Yeah, so I did. I grew up on a farm in Salinas, California. So I grew up, or it was more of, we had horses and some cows and stuff in the backyard. That really did teach me a lot of hard work. But I did enter, and I was the only woman. I don't know why women don't enter these events, but Salinas has the largest rodeo and the largest across the entire nation, largest prize pool of money and like bling and stuff they give you.
Nice.
So I entered something called calf dressing. And actually, it's a huge advantage being a woman because you have to dress a cow in these like Wrangler jeans. And what's fantastic about it is you actually have to be able to get under the cow. So you have to be small. So it's these big, burly, farmer guys trying to do it. And I came in with a team of 2 other guys. It's 3 people on a team and then me. And I think there's a huge advantage to being small and just being able to dress it really quickly while they're holding down the cow. So anyways, we got a huge, massive belt buckles, the same ones that like the pro bull riders win at the rodeo, which is pretty cool.
This is so unrelated, but I mean, this is just fascinating to me. So you're actually putting pants on a calf. That's what this is. Like
that's the event. And you get the same, and it has the same credibility as the pro bull riders that win the top belt buckle. You get the same exact belt buckle. I mean, it's like the best hack to getting a professional rodeo belt buckle.
This is funny, but it reminds me of listening to some of Tim Ferriss's stories where he just figured out how he could win some sort of competition that was just random so that he could be a world champion. So, all right, very cool. So, all right. So you had mentioned the property management industry and something about it got you excited, which either says you're crazy or you see maybe something similar to me. So, so property management, what potential do you see the industry is having? Because really in the US, I feel like it's underperforming in its potential. Like people just don't see it. Awareness is low. Perception is low. What's your perception of what the potential is for the property management industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. In the first one, so it kind of falls into 2 buckets of the potential. The first one really has to do with just real estate investing in general. Mm-hmm. I don't think, and this happened to me when I was at Apple. Most people, when you ask them, how did you get into real estate and real estate investing, you ask, how it's usually, someone told me. I had a friend who was doing it and doing it successfully. And so all of these companies out there are where they have these employees who have great savings and could be allocating money into real estate. They're literally going into stocks and bonds and other things, instead. And then the biggest thing with property management was that's the biggest pain point, because when I looked at buying properties here in San Francisco, it didn't make sense. Like the numbers just didn't make sense for investment. At that time, maybe things change. Some people want the appreciation game, then they'll invest in San Francisco, but it's really investing out of state. And so then the biggest thing is property management. I quite frankly think buying the property is the easy part of it. You put the numbers on spreadsheets, you're not emotional, you go and you purchase the property, right? There's not too much rocket science to that part. Mm-hmm. Where it really comes down to the success of your investment is in the property management. It's the most difficult part to be in. And it's the one that you're stuck with for 20, 25 years, right? Buying the property, it takes you like maybe a year, depending on how long you're looking. Some people, buy within their first month. But the property management and actually being able to make sure you have that stable, steady cash flow is the most difficult part of it. And no one there's no focus on it. I think because it's the most difficult that people kind of push it off. Or like the biggest thing, one of my biggest frustrations with property management is people thinking like, oh, maintenance is going to be so easy. Like that kind of stuff is really difficult to do. And you're dealing with, I always think of property managers as jacks of all trades. Like they have to be good salespeople. They have to be good at marketing. They have to be a lawyer because they have to know these lease contracts. They have to be a maintenance person because they have to know how to troubleshoot and push back on service professionals and understand like, am I getting screwed over or not? They have to be a therapist because tenants get emotional because it's their home. Like they're having to do everything. And so it does make it where one of the things I've always been driven towards is challenge. Like if something's not challenging and it gets easy, I usually just leave the job. And so it's just boring. Then it's just a 9 to 5. I think in property management, it's not that. Something new happens every single day. And you're constantly saying, how do I take that and mitigate that risk? And that's really where I do think that there's just so much value to it. And there's, quite frankly, not a lot of focus on it. And that's where, Jason, this show is incredible because you actually bring in those people to talk about how do you mitigate that risk? How do you set it up for success, et cetera? And I believe it has to be subject matter experts that do it. There are certain things that technology can do, right? To just say, here's the best practice in place and process. But then you also have to have the people component because you still have to talk to people. You still need someone physically there. Like the worst thing I think is when they talk about these robots showing the properties and stuff. Some people love it. Like, I don't think the industry is there yet. I'm like, go and show some of these properties, right? I don't think the industry is quite there for some of this stuff. That's just my own personal opinion from dealing with them and being hands-on and showing properties and doing all of this stuff, inspections, move-ins, move-outs, maintenance coordination. And so it still needs that human component. And it's much better to say, here are the subject matter experts that do it versus every single person trying to do it. As you know, that happens with single family homes where it's still the majority doing the self-management themselves.
Yeah. So I love what you said, buying is easy, managing the property hard, like really simple. So, and that's so true. Like when you get into real estate investing, they're hoping that they've got some turnkey, magical, easy thing and money's just going to be flowing in. And then they have to manage the property and reality sets in. So I think that's worth pointing out. I think the other thing, and so property management is like the most difficult part. The other thing you pointed out is that property managers, these entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs are highly adaptable creatures. You call them jacks of all trade or Jills of all trade, but they're highly adaptable creatures, us entrepreneurs. And I think that's why I get excited about them because they're my type of people. And what's interesting is, some people would maybe call entrepreneurs gluttons for punishment, but I think we love challenges. Like we love and just like I said in the intro, we love the unique challenges. And I think that really we would be bored without challenges. Like we would, as entrepreneurs, we want to be tested. We want to have some challenges to work on. I think the trick is finding the challenges that we enjoy working on versus the ones that are kind of thrown onto us that we don't want to be dealing with. So, and there's a difference, but I love that as well. So I think the industry as a whole has massive potential. So you mentioned the first one, real estate investing, and that they need, property management. And what was the second thing?
Oh, and then the second one with the challenges associated with it is just property management in general is such an afterthought of it. Like people, so the first is real estate investing and thinking of it kind of like stocks and bonds where you can purchase a property anywhere. Okay. Like I tell people you shouldn't purchase in your backyard just so you can self-manage it. You should be looking elsewhere. It's not like I say, okay, my neighbor runs this small little company and that's the only one I can invest in. When I'm looking at stocks, I'm like, what stocks out there across the world should I invest in? That's going to give me what I think is the best return, right? And diversification and things like that. And it's the same with property management. So the first is just that investing and outside of the area, but then the second is property management. Like you said, I think turnkey is actually a horrible word for that because when people say turnkey, it makes you think you don't have to do anything
it's gonna be easy.
at all. It's going to be easy. And the problem is then when something goes wrong, the property manager is the first to get blamed. The first to get blamed. And they actually don't even get credit, because the word turnkey makes you think, oh, I'm going to get this cash flow, because the turnkey companies put it like, hey, you're going to get this great number and this is what you're going to get and there aren't going to be problems. What happens is you think you're going to be at the top of that and everything's going to go right. And when something goes wrong, then it's the property manager who gets blamed, which we know there are lemon tenants out there, a bunch of different things. And so those challenges and mitigating those is really that second component of it.
Okay, so now let's get into Hemlane a little bit here. So property management business owners, they have a lot of different pain points and challenges and problems. And there's a lot of pain points and challenges that owners and tenants and everybody are dealing with. Businesses only exist technically to solve a problem. If a business exists that is not solving a problem, then it's just stealing money, right?
Yeah.
And so let's get into the problem that Hemlane helps solve. So tell us about the problem, and I think this will help people transition into helping them understand Hemlane and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Hemlane is a flexible and transparent property management platform. What I mean by platform is that we have software. So software, if you think of like a Buildium or Appfolio, but for the smaller guy, not 500 plus units. It's got the software built into it where it automates things. It sends reminders of what you need to do next. And it walks you through a risk mitigated process. For example, people say, why don't you integrate PayPal? Why can't I pay with PayPal on Hemlane? It's like, well, that's not a good process because tenants can dispute that. So we're not going to put that in there. So, building the best practices in place. So it's got the software. But the second component of it is really saying that, hey, most of our clients are people who own rental properties and they don't live locally. So what do they want help with? A lot of them are trying to self-manage, or they're illegally using handymen to show the property and trying to haphazardly put together a process, which we see a lot of the market doing, especially the tail end of it. And they usually do it with like these B-class properties where, it's not that they're having to deal with the Section 8 or much lower income, but they're saying, oh, I can probably manage this remotely myself. And so we actually come in and say, no, if you want someone to show your property, they have to be licensed. Here are managers we work with in that area or real estate agents, and they can show your property for you. So that's why we call it a platform, because we're not a brokerage. We're not trying to take clients from anyone. We're just looking to connect them. And so there's basically two packages. Property managers and real estate agents use our software only package, because they don't really need us to, help connect them or do maintenance coordination. And then owners will use the upgraded package, so owners of rental properties, and they'll say, hey, I still want to, control my rent, have rent go to me, but I want to pay someone one time, a full leasing fee for them to do the leasing. Whatever it is, we don't get involved in that price negotiation. We just set them up with someone local who can provide those services for them. So we have partnered with property managers and real estate agents across the nation based on where portfolios are or where needs are. We're not in we're in all 50 states, but our actual agents and managers are only in some of the major cities. We focus on certain cities. And then what happens is when we have a real estate investor come to us, whether they purchased through some group, whether they just come through us and find us online, we say, great, here are the managers in the area, get on a call with them and see what you want them to do. Whatever you want them to do, they'll just charge you for their services in the system. And so it is in full service. Sometimes it does get to full service. Sometimes they just ask the manager to take over their account in our system, and it downgrades to the software only package, and then the manager charges them a full management fee. But a lot of our owners are more in that category of, hey, we used to do it ourselves and we're looking for something else. They really fall into that do-it-yourself, that 70% category, and we're trying to kind of push them into saying, hey, there are other things out there that are much more efficient than you trying to spend your time on doing your own property management.
So let's make this super clear. So for those that are listening that have property management businesses or property management entrepreneurs, who's kind of your ideal prospect when it comes to them, and help them self-identify as somebody that should be reaching out to Hemlane?
Yeah, great question. So from that perspective, it's typically someone who has under 200 units. They're looking to grow their portfolio, and they're also open to doing a combination of multiple things for clients to expand their clientele. And what I mean by expand their clientele is saying, hey, I'm going to offer full service as one option, and I'm going to offer some unbundled services as well, say leasing only, maintenance only, whatever it is. And so when a customer comes to you, it's not saying, hey, I charge 10%, and if you don't want that, don't work with me. It's saying, hey, what do you want? Like, what do you want me to do? Here's what I'll do. Here's what our contract says. And then you can do everything yourself. And so they can jump on our platform. They don't even have to be using our software to actually get access to owners. They can create an agent profile, an agent manager profile for free. But if we do connect them with people, we do have requirements and property management questions that we ask them to make sure that they're qualified, reference checks, things like that. But usually it's for the smaller manager that doesn't have enough referrals yet, who's just starting out saying, how do I get an advantage in my market? I'm new, I'm a hustler, kind of crazy in that sense of doing property management. I'm working, working around the clock. I know my stuff, but I'm just right now starting to grow my portfolio. And really in property management, there's only two ways to grow your portfolio. Starve yourself and do it slowly and go door by door, or acquire a brokerage, which I have a ton of friends who just acquire brokerages, property management brokerages, and they just run them. But they have the capital, and a lot of people don't have that capital. So if you don't, and you're going door to door to door because your parents didn't hand down their property management business to you, which doesn't happen a lot of the time. If you only have 10 doors and you're saying, how do I get to 20? Working and partnering with companies like Hemlane makes a ton of sense to get you out there, your name out there, more referrals, etc.
Love it. So I know we have quite a few that are under 200 doors that are listening, and the fact that this could help them generate some more leads, create some more relationships, and drum up some more business, I think is enticing. So let's focus just on the growth aspect. How does Hemlane help somebody say they're stuck in that first sand trap? They've got 50 or 60 units under management. They're a solopreneur, or maybe they've finally broken past that, but they're wanting to kind of get into that next level, which is kind of that 200 to 400 door range. I call the second sand trap, where they kind of get stuck. How do they, how's Hemlane going to help them kind of build up their book of business?
Yeah, so there's two things. One is automation and stuff like that. There's anything technology can do better that's administrative, we take off of you. Everything from like, hey, a tenant just said I'm interested in a showing and just reached out to you on Zillow. You shouldn't be manually responding to that. You should already have your calendar. You should already have your qualifications of what minimums they have, criteria to qualify. That showing calendar needs to be sent right out to them at that second. They can respond. If they don't, you can give them a personalized call. But everything from automation, so you're not focused on that and you're focused on sales and marketing of your property management business, which is the most important thing to grow it. That's number one. Then number two is saying, why don't you give yourself a competitive advantage against everyone else by saying, hey, you know what? Everyone else has this, 10% model. And a lot of times these people who've been self-managing and they're saying, hey, I want a property manager, like taking them from going from 0 to 10%, it takes a while over time for them to do that because they have to build trust in you, right? They've never worked with you. And so starting them and saying, hey, let me just do your leasing for you, right? And let me just do your leasing. You can manage everything else on Hemlane. The next year coming back and saying, hey, do you want me to take over this from you as well? Letting them ease into it. It's kind of like when you give a price, a lot of companies do like, 30 days free, or you get those plated and open door things. They're like, 2 for 1, this, and you try things at a low barrier to entry. And then you like it and you're hooked and you're connected to this person. Then you're like, hey, I trust this person. Now they can have more of my business. But I think a lot of it is like, that doesn't happen today in the industry. The industry is just saying it's all or none. And you're getting the same price quote from every property manager. And you don't want to cut your prices. You don't want to like say, hey, I'll give you everything at a lower price. You don't want to discount, because then, there's quality problems there. But
Mm-hmm.
what you can say is, hey, maybe I'll just take over this little part from you. I'll help you with that. And then that's your biggest pain point. Let me solve that. Now let me solve your other ones. And so from that perspective, Hemlane can really help you set that up to provide your clients, new clients, and clients across the nation who may even just be looking in your area with some sort of competitive advantage that you have, that's not this, when you're trying to get doors, you can get more of them quickly, and then build those relationships and build that deal value and customer size over time.
So Hemlane will also help kind of expose this small business to investors in other markets in other areas.
Yeah, well, they usually come to us. So the investor will come to us and
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, I'm interested in this plus this. So usually investors will come to us across the nation and say, hey, I am in Kansas City and I want to put my properties on Hemlane. And we go, great, sign up and try us for free. And then we say, what do you need? And they're like, oh, I need some advertising tools. Great, we can provide that to you. Do you need someone to show your properties? No, I don't think I do. Okay, well, when's your next turnover? In like 2 months. Great. Follow up then. Do you need someone to show your property? Yeah, actually, my husband and I are going to Europe and things changed. Great. Here's
Mm-hmm.
someone who can help with your leasing. So from that perspective, it's capturing people at the right time, because timing is everything. And if you can just get your foot in the door, it makes a lot of sense. And so for us, because we're nationwide, we're a platform, people come in, and then where our managers and agents is where we focus on upselling them on connecting them with local professionals.
So property managers listening that maybe haven't heard of Hemlane, they would probably naturally be inquiring or wondering, how are these investors finding out about Hemlane?
Yeah, so there's a ton of places that they find out about us. The biggest ones that we actually find are actually on social media. Most of these real estate investors, I think we have one of the best algorithms in place, from this person we use for marketing. But it is really social, because a lot of them aren't searching for property management software. Like, they just don't search for that. They don't search for landlord software. So a lot of it is on social, and social. Whatever algorithm's being used is working for that. So that's been huge for us. But we also are, for example, in the US, the top rated on software advice. So if you look at their top products, you'll see us at the top for software solutions. And so they'll find us on software advice. They'll find us on Capterra. They'll find us on GetApp. And then the other thing is blogs and content. I write a ton of content on why is Venmo the worst way to collect rent? What do you need that's concrete in your lease? And a lot of times when they're searching for something, they're not searching for a software or a manager. They're saying, I have a problem and I need it fixed. And they're searching that term. And if you can give them the solution in a blog post and say, here's some ways to get connected locally with folks in your area who do property management. A lot of times I just set them up for a coffee. I just say, hey, so-and-so, meet with so-and-so for a coffee. I know you're self-managing, but would be a great way for you guys just to connect locally in your city in case things change, in case your mind changes. And so that's, a great way to kind of start building those relationships without being too salesy. And those people come back to you. They do remember you, especially if you make that impression and you meet them for a quick coffee.
Yeah, so you guys are pulling in traffic from Capterra, GetApp, software sites, blogging, all this. So you've got traffic coming in. And then, so for the property manager, what is sort of the buy-in, or what's sort of the requirement for them to start working with you? What's like financially, what does this typically cost for them to get on board? How much work does this take? What's sort of your vetting process? How can those listening kind of self-qualify to become part of the Hemlane sort of network?
Yeah, great question. So in every area, we actually personally get on a call with you to understand you, because if we're going to refer you out, we actually think of you more as a partner versus as like, hey, you created a profile. So if we are going to refer you out, we actually do need to do some interviews of our team knowing who you are, asking questions, pre-qualifying. So as long as you have done, the minimum we've taken is someone who's done 10 doors. As long as you have like 10 doors, they even if they're your own doors or something like that, and you're just starting your own property management, we need as a prerequisite that you have some experience in leasing and property management, because we're not going to teach you that. And then we ask you questions of what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? Understanding how well do you really know property management in leasing and complex situations. So we'll walk through those situations with you. And then the third and final thing is reference checks. We do some reference checks on you. Then there's two things in each area. The first is if you're using our software already, we obviously would refer people to you first before we refer to someone who's not using our software, because we don't take a cut. We don't believe in taking cuts of however much you make. So when you charge an owner for something, we don't take a cut of that. You get 100% of it. And that's really, really important to us, because we never want anyone to think, hey, we're working with this person because they give us 20% of their income. Like, we don't care. That's yours. We make our money off of our software and our platform. The connections help make our software much more differentiated than others. So we don't take a cut of anything that you make. And that's really, really important to note. You build your own business. We build ours. We have the tools to help you with that. So if you are using our software, we put you higher ranked, assuming you fit our qualifications, than someone who's not using our software but's just free on our program that just says, hey, I'm in this region. In a lot of cities, we don't have any partner in that city. And, so there's no one using our software that's good enough, that's qualified. And so even if you're not using our software, we'll still refer you out, just because, hey, we want to make sure those people are happy. So that's kind of the first things with it. But then actually what's even more important to us to like keep business and keep traction going is asking reviews. So when we refer owners out to you, we actually ask them for their opinions on you after working with you the first time. You might have done something really small for them by just saying, hey, let me do an annual inspection and drop by your property. You haven't been there. But we ask the owner, how was it? What reports did they give you? This and that, because we want to make sure that you are trained and qualified. There's a ton of people out there pretending to be property managers who's like, gosh, if I had my property in their hands, like this is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And so we do have to, what we found is it's quality, not quantity. It's a quality of the individuals we work with. In each city, we don't need 500 managers on our platform and being like, we have everyone on here. All we need is the top. The people who say, hey, they pick up their calls. They respond to emails. They don't wait 3 weeks to respond to an owner. And you know what? They're fair with the owners, and they set these owners up where the owner's like, thank goodness I have this person on my team. They went in and did an annual inspection and saw leashes hanging, and like dog bowls, but like they're not supposed to have pets in the place. Like that type of thing. And so that's really where I do think the value comes in. And so it's really asking for reviews on that as well. And then you can even set it up if you use our maintenance coordination, where you get reviews on like how you did with your maintenance coordination, how well your service professionals did. I think data is really big there to understand like how are people doing and performing, because you can't do everything yourself. And so for us, it's the same thing of like, how are our local agents performing? And sometimes we have to kick people off and say, you know what, they're not exactly, who we want our reputation to be surrounded with. So that's why it's just important. If you don't have any leasing or management experience, you do need to go out and get some. We won't take someone who's a newbie and try to train them by any means.
Yeah. So this sounds like something ideal for probably most of our clients to get on board with, to just, if nothing else, to have that listing and be one of the boots on the ground partners that you guys have in your database.
Yeah, we would love for our team to interview you, have a call with you and stuff like that. Like I said, doesn't take too much time and adds free value. We don't ask you for marketing dollars. We have those inbound coming in already through our marketing. And so from that perspective, we'll just work directly with you. And then we won't take a cut. So there's really, from our perspective, there's no, we're not trying to make money off of you. We're just trying to create a much more valuable community.
We probably just should have started this show saying, if you're a good property manager,
Call Dana.
Dana's going to send you leads. She's
Yeah,
just
there
going to
you go.
send you some free business and you don't have to pay for it. And
Yep.
we probably could have just ended it right there and given a link, and you probably would have gotten a few phone calls. So
Sounds good. Yep.
okay, cool. So what else should those listening know about Hemlane that we haven't covered already? What are some of the most common questions that you're fielding, maybe from the property management side, property managers?
Yeah, on the property management side, it's really interesting. One of the things that we get most often in it is with owners. Like when people come to us with owners of, hey, my owners are, I've got too much going on and I can't do it all, and I'm stressed and I'm working around the clock. And, I can't grow my doors. These owners are upset, blah, blah, blah. One of the biggest things that I see is communication. When things go wrong, it's usually because the owner wants to have communication, and we see it on our side. So when owners come to us, we say, why are you signing up for Hemlane? And it's because I want some transparency and communication. And I think for property managers to know that, like, we have it in the solution where you can add your owners and decide what they get access to.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also decide, hey, they get access to all of it, but they don't get notifications. Like every time a maintenance request is opened, they don't get communications on that, but notifications, they just get a summary email, once a week, once a month, depending on what you have set up. So I think from the perspective of Hemlane, one of the things that we see as really, really valuable in the solution is having that communication. So you're not having to field 500 calls from owners every day saying, how many leads did I get today? How many showings did you do for my property this week? All of that's in the system for your owner to just view and look at. And I think having that data and having that transparency to them is like, wow, you're on top of what you're doing. And that makes them feel good when they see an email. It's like, we got 20 leads and 10 of them showed up did showings, and 3 of them completed an application. They're like, oh, okay, things are moving along. So even if your day is back to back and you're running around and you've got some fire drill with plumbers and then some tenant who wants to move out tomorrow and all this other stuff going on, at least that technology is working for you. So that's one of the biggest things that we see, and that is really valuable on the software side. And then other questions that we get from property managers is, well, what about if you're going to take clients and clients are just going to use you and not use me and this and that? We've never seen that happen, ever. If you're a good property manager, which are the ones on our platform, that doesn't happen. There are 2 types of owners. There is that 30% in the single family homes that Jason is talking about who say, I'm handing you the keys. I don't want to hear about the property. Take it and go with it. And it changes based on different life events, especially like when people have kids. For some reason, that's when they're like, please take my properties now. I've got something worse than properties. I've got children. Yeah, I've got something worse than properties. I can't deal with them. And so there's these life events that happen that can kind of signal, ooh, maybe I should check in with them and see if they want more full service. But for us, what we find is people really fall into different categories and they silo into that. There are people who say, take everything, willing to pay for it and do everything for me and send me a check and send me my owner distribution. And then we have other people in the system who are like, they want to be so hands-on that actually, quite frankly, trying to do full service management with them is a nightmare. Jason, I love that you tell people to like say no to clients. I think more property managers need to do that, to fire clients, because they're so hands-on of like, they want to do everything. And it's like double the work for you. And then they get involved in things they shouldn't, and then they mess up things. And then it's just way more for you. And so I think that's another thing that from Hemlane and what we offer and what people come to us for, what property managers ask us about is like, hey, would you ever take our clients? It's like, no, we're a platform. People can use us, but they still have to physically do the work, and there's still physical stuff to be done. And the big question is, do they want you to do it, or do they want to do it themselves? And it's based on life events and based on their personal preferences of whether they're going to do full service, whether they're going to do some hybrid, or whether they're going to do everything themselves. And so I think that's also another question that sometimes we get from managers. We've just never seen that. We've never seen someone come to us and say, my property manager uses your software, now we'd like to use it. It's not that, because that person doesn't want to do it, right?
Yeah. There's a reason. Like nobody generally wants to go from somebody's taking care of something to I think it'd be fun to start doing this on my own when it comes to
Exactly.
property management. The
Yeah, no,
reverse,
it's true.
definitely.
The reverse definitely happens, and it happens in increments because they're like, I kind of want someone to help me, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I trust this person. I've never worked with them. And so it kind of goes in increments. And yeah, the only time we see someone who doesn't work with their property manager, who isn't someone on Hemlane, but elsewhere, is when something goes wrong or when they haven't been communicated to, which honestly, if you have a really good process in place and you're communicating with your owners every day and you're letting them know and they don't have surprises, they shouldn't have that. Like on our system, we have it set up where the property managers can just tell the owners on day 2, here are your tenants who haven't paid rent. We're following up with them, but just as a heads up, they haven't paid rent. So we want to give you a forewarning so that when you call them on day 6 and tell them we're serving a 3-day notice, they're not saying, oh, wait, but now this is a surprise. I thought I was getting the money. I think communication is really, really important there.
Yeah, I think I love the idea that yeah. So talking about this, a lot of times property managers are just hoping for somebody to just get married to them. Like, let's just get married and without the dating. And they, and I think what people aren't really buying property management, what they really buy, they don't want just property management. What they really want is safety and certainty. That's what they're hoping to buy.
Definitely.
People don't buy property management. They're buying trust in you as a property manager. And asking somebody to turn over the keys and like give you everything for some is just too big of a risk. And I love the idea of there being some sort of stepping stone in leading into this safety and certainty. Like how much safety and certainty do they have initially? It's pretty low. And if they can just hand you a little bit or a piece of this, then it would be very easy to transition them. And a major component of business is retention and upsell. And if you can retain them and you can upsell to them, then you're significantly increasing the lifetime value. And you have this funnel of people coming into this pipeline that you can build a relationship with over time, and you can get them into something bigger. So Russell Brunson, this crazy marketer that some have seen, he has got this concept that I'm sure he got from somewhere else called the value ladder. And the idea of a value ladder is that you need these different price points that get marginally larger that you start people with. And you don't want to start people with this really big high ticket item. They usually need to start with something small initially, which usually at the very beginning is something free, like offering some sort of free value or free content or free information. Yeah. And then it incrementally builds. And so this kind of gives property managers a little bit more of a value ladder to step people and seduce people or convince people into full management.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think you're spot on there, Jason, in the sense of like, life events change for people, upsells do happen, but you rarely see people say, I'm going from full service with someone I trust to now managing it myself. Once they've already committed, they're done. The only time that happens is if you drop the ball. And so it's important for you to have the software, have the communication, have the processes, have the team in place, like build your team in order to do that. But you're right. I think a lot of times I see it with property managers when I see they have a call and the owner says, hey, I'm looking for a property manager. And they go, okay, great. Well, here's all the services that we offer. We're end to end, and we charge 1 month's rent for leasing, and we charge 10% a month for monthly rent to do everything. And we'll take the keys. When's a good time for me to meet you at the property to see it? And the owner's like, whoa. And instead, you should start the conversation about, great, thanks so much for reaching out to me. What can I help you with? What's the one thing that you hate with your property management? Is it maintenance? Is it doing your showings? Like, what's the one thing that just drives you insane that you want to do? And that will change your game and change and differentiate you, because they're getting that same exact price quote and that same exact spiel from everyone, and doesn't differentiate you from that perspective.
Yeah. Somebody was calling my iPad. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
So, so I love the idea. So, I mean, going back to that analogy of like marriage and dating, I mean, yeah, a lot of property managers are like, hey, oh, you might need some help with your property. It's the equivalent of saying, yeah, I might be interested in maybe connecting with you. Great. I'll be moving in tomorrow. Like we're
Yeah.
together. Like,
Totally. Here's
like,
my
okay.
contract. Here's my
Yeah.
contract. Sign it. It's annual. It's
Let's do
annual. There's
this.
no free
Yeah.
trial, and there's a huge termination clause in
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
you're like, for an owner, it's like, I haven't actually physically worked with you. It's kind of like hiring an employee. If you've worked with someone in the past, you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. But if you haven't worked with them, you're like, I need to do these interviews. I need to do these background checks. I need to do this. And you're like, I'm not even quite sure if they're going to work out. So there's this much larger barrier. And so as much as you can avoid and take down that barrier really, really will help your business. And then also, it goes the other way. You're dating them, but sometimes you want to tell the client after doing just the leasing for them, I'm so glad you're taking over the management. And then they reach back out to you to do the leasing next time. And you're like, oh, I would love to do the leasing for you, but I'm completely booked because they were a freaking nightmare to deal with. And you never want to deal with them again. And that happened. That's like the best way for you.
Please
also
call our competitors down the street. They
Yeah,
would
exactly.
love to
Let me
help
give you
you. We're a bit overwhelmed right now.
all of the competitors' things. So I think the dating goes both ways, because one of the things, Jason, I love about your show, which you've said time and time again, is, a lot of these people who are really stressed in property management, it's because they have like 10% of their clients are 150% of like the time they spend of like overworked, overwhelmed on these properties. And it's just, well, you probably shouldn't be doing those ones. So I think the dating goes both ways.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tell clients all the time that sales and deals and contracts happen at the speed of trust. And it's that
that's
simple.
great
And
quote.
so
Yeah.
I love that, that with using Hemlane, based on what you're saying, what this allows you to do is to start that relationship of trust. And once you build that, it becomes very easy to upsell or get them into a more committed relationship with you, of doing more stuff with you. Once you earn that, if there's anything else that they need, they'll be happy to use you to do that. And you then have more opportunities. And that's all property management entrepreneurs need, is more opportunities to build trust. And the more opportunities they have, the better. And it sounds like Hemlane is another channel or possibility for them to do that they may not have considered before.
Yeah, absolutely. Great way to market from that perspective. Yep.
So Dana, it's been awesome having you here on the show. So how can people get in touch with Hemlane, and how can these property managers that are listening, how can they get started with you guys? How do they sign up?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is actually if you're interested in our partnership program, we don't just do regular signups through that. We actually, it's through our partnership page. Instead of going there, you can just email me, Dana, DANA @hemlane.com. I'll send that out to our partnership team, and Brad will give you a call and schedule and find some time to go through things with you. So that's for the partnership. You can also go to www.hemlane.com. And from there, you can click the try us for free. You can watch our videos and see what we offer as well. Features, everything in there. So you can see that as well if you're interested in using our software and our services. And then if you just have questions on property management in general, and you're kind of in this rut or whatever, and you think there's some way that potentially we can get you out of that, I'm really happy to hear about that too. But the fastest thing to do is email me, Dana@hemlane.com, because I'm always on my email.
Cool. So maybe the last question. So what is a Hemlane? Where does the name Hemlane come from? This branding?
Yeah, great question. So we wanted something that had an international feel to it. We wanted something that was easy to say, easy to pronounce. DoorGrow, really easy to say, really easy to pronounce, 2 syllables. And we wanted something that didn't have any branding behind it. So when we looked international, we basically took multiple languages for the word home, and went through and looked at home in multiple different languages. Hem is house in Swedish. And then lane is a path that divides others from other people, right? And so when you think of a path, you're always looking to get ahead of others and differentiate, right? And so we put, house differentiation from that perspective together. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have like rental in it, or something that was too that didn't really have its own branding around it. But what was funny is when we started Hemlane, it sounded like a horrible pair of cutoff pants, like Hemline. And everyone I would go to was like, so do you have a clothing company? And it's like, no, it's not a clothing company. It's quite the opposite. So we've now when you look up Hemlane, it's all Hemlane, it's all property management. But before that, it was a lot of just really bad pictures of people's cut off pants and hemlines and stuff like that beforehand. So
yeah, good. So I love branding. So I love hearing about how people come up with names. So, and I love that there's kind of this meaning behind it. So that's interesting. Well, Dana, it's been a delight having you here on the show. It's always fun to hang out with like-minded business people and entrepreneurs. I love that you're helping the industry. You're helping growth. This is I think, a great fit to have you here on the show. And I'm excited to see what sort of success you guys create. So
great. Well, thanks so much, Jason, for having me on the show. I love your show and I love the content that you have.
Oh, I appreciate it. Cool. Well, we'll let you go. All right. So really great having Dana on. So if you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, then maybe check out Hemlane. It sounds like an interesting channel for growth. And if you're struggling and you want to optimize your business and optimize your warm lead funnel, and you're tired of playing the game of SEO and pay-per-click and content marketing and social media marketing and pay-per lead services, and it's not working, and you're spending a lot of money and you're not getting the return on all that money, then you're probably worse off than if you just not done the marketing in the first place. And so those are the people that we would love to help. Reach out to us at DoorGrow, and we might just blow your mind and help you figure out how to target that 70% and grow your business. I had a really cool morning call this morning with Regis Beatty, one of our clients, and I hadn't really connected much with him over the last year, but he dialed in our program, did what we had said, and he added over 100 doors in just the last year, just by doing the stuff that I tell him to do. And so all these success stories keep popping up, and I probably should stay better connected. But if you're looking to add 100, 200 doors in the next year, and you feel like growth, you're losing more doors than you're getting on right now due to the sell-off in the market, and you're focused on cold lead advertising to try and grow your business, and it's just not working, have a conversation with us at DoorGrow. We would love to help you out. And our mission really is to transform this industry and help grow it. And I believe the industry has massive potential to be as big as probably the entire real estate industry here in the US. There are a lot of rental properties, and we have only scratched the surface in terms of growth. So I'm excited to see what happens here in the future. So reach out. And if you are watching this on YouTube, or you're watching this, make sure to like and subscribe. I want to build up our YouTube channel and get our first 1,000 subscribers. We've got, I think, a few hundred there maybe right now, but I'd love to get to that $1,000 mark of subscribers, and you will see these episodes first. You'll be the first to be notified when we put these episodes out. We release them to YouTube as videos before they show up on iTunes. So if you're hearing this on iTunes, make sure you get over to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/DoorGrow. You can load it from your phone right now. Like, do it. And click subscribe, and then you'll even start getting some notifications from YouTube in your browser occasionally when we pop up a new video, and you'll be excited and able to hear some of the latest and greatest material connected to the property management industry and to growth. So that is all for today. So until next time, everybody, to our